Very excited for today's episode. I'm excited for every episode, but we should have a great one today. It's a full house. It's me, Tom Dotan, Eric Newcomer, Madeline Renbarger, and our special guest, Ed Zitron of the Better Offline podcast of the Better Off Ed. Is that the name of your?
So where's your Ed at?
Where's your Ed? I'm sorry.
Where's your
I'm
Ed
sorry.
at?
I think Better Off Ed was like an NBC show.
So
Yeah.
is Basement Jack's reference.
Yeah. Okay. And
Where's your
and
head at?
also,
Classic.
I mean, in fairness to all of this, you also you're still working at least somewhat on the side doing some comms for some
I
startups,
run
right?
a PR firm in my day job. I just keep it firewalled and I don't cover anything close to what I do.
Got it. Okay, great. But you've also, you've been on a tear. You've been around tech for a long time, as long as I've been around it.
Yeah.
And, at various times, I think really step up to call bullshit on what you find to be disturbing and kind of built into the core of the tech industry and the hype machine. But you've really been on a tear in the last, probably a couple of years, but definitely the last few weeks over generative AI. And you have published The Hater's Guide to the Generative AI Bubble. You have written about the enshittification of AI. Yeah, we're going to have a lot to dig into here, but I want to give you the space to kind of lay out your argument. And before I do that, or in leading to that, I should say, I want to read something that maybe outlines kind of very broadly from your Hater's Guide. And this, I think, just kind of gives a summation on why you're so mad about the state that things are in within the tech world, generative AI. So you say here, I'm tired of being gaslit by guys in gingham shirts who desperately want to curry favor with other guys in gingham shirts, but also have PhDs. I'm tired of reading people talk about how we're all, quote, in the era of agents that don't fucking work and will never fucking work. I'm tired of hearing about, quote, powerful AI that is actually crap. I'm tired of being told the future is here while having the world's least useful, most expensive cloud software shoved down my throat. All right, Ed, lay it out for us. Why are we here right now? What's going on? Why are you so mad?
Well, I'm mad. The thing is, when
You're a hater.
When you hear mad, it sounds irate. I am a hater, but I hate it because there are useful cloud products. If large language models, I don't even think they'd have been possibly got this big because we wouldn't have shoved so much GPU down them or so much tech. You get my point. I think that had this been sold honestly, had large language models been sold with as they were, what they were truly capable of, which is some productivity gains in very specific things, cloud automation, whatever, 50, 60 billion TAM market. The problem is that everyone has pinned every hope ever on this stuff. And I actually spent 2 days ago to drive myself insane and also for something I was writing. I went back and I read pretty much every article from 2023 and 2024 about GPT-4, 4.0. This entire thing has been sold based on stuff that AI cannot do. The generative AI is incapable of doing. One of the oldest stories that got published was, I don't know if any of you remember the story around the TaskRabbit, where GPT-4 ordered a TaskRabbit.
No.
This was a story that was everywhere. It was in Kevin Roost's New York Times. It was in Vice. It was all over the shop. Fox News. And it was this thing where it said GPT-4 ordered a TaskRabbit to complete a CAPTCHA and tricked a TaskRabbit into solving a CAPTCHA. And if you go back and look at where that's from, it's in the GPT-4 system card. Promise I'm going somewhere with this. There's about 11 lines of text, a illustrative example that said a message was sent to a TaskRabbit. This was reported as if this happened. It is very clear that it did not, because the following line says that these systems are ineffective at these things. This didn't happen. Nevertheless, this was reported publicly. Pretty much this entire generative AI boom has been based on lies. It's been based on suggesting what this might do versus what it actually does. Nowhere is that more illustrative than the lack of revenue pretty much everywhere. Even OpenAI, the use of annualized revenues, as in 12 times month, is honestly journalistic crime. Because when you actually look at what these companies, we don't know what they actually make. We do know they lose billions. We don't really know how much money OpenAI has made or Anthropic has made. We do know, however, companies like Cursor, 500 million annualized revenue. Even them, we don't really know. But we know that everyone's losing money. And these revenues are kind of piss poor. And the actual products are unreliable. The people that really love them are constantly having to hammer them back into place. But when you ask even the most devout AI person what it is they love about it, they get quite vague. They get quite vague indeed. And they get quite vague because the real things that these things, and I have it in the Hater's Guide, they do one of like 9 to 11 things. It's like they can summarize, they can generate, they can take actions, but only in as much as they can be relied upon, and relying on a large language model to create or do any kind of distinct action is kind of bad. And they all burn a bunch of capital. So ultimately, we've built this entire thing talking about this big revolution, just shouted at people that if they don't get into AI, they'll be falling behind. But when you look at the actual products, they don't do that much. They don't do enough to even remotely justify the amount of press, to even remotely justify the furor around even like Wario Amadei or Clammy Sam Altman. Like, these guys are not even that interesting, and the things they're building are not even real products. Indeed, when you go back and look at the history of the press around these products, you can see no one really talks about what they do, what they can do, what they might do, what's possible in the future based on what we're extrapolating. It's 2025. What the fuck are we doing? If this was sold as boring cloud software, as 50, 60 TAM market, it wouldn't be the biggest, most hugest revolution ever. But I wouldn't be so angry about it because it's taken up startup capital and it's now locking up even more investor capital than the 2021 bullshit year. Except even by 2021 standards, this money's locked up. How are any of these companies selling? Who's going to buy Cognition? Who's going to buy Cohere? Are those assholes going to go public? AnySphere going to go public? The Windsurf deal. Look at the Windsurf deal. Come on. There are no real exits.
I obviously disagree with a lot of the things you're saying. No surprise.
Yeah.
But I guess just this idea that it's a media invention. Like, I had to almost like go check to make sure I wasn't making it up. Like, ChatGPT is the #1 free app in the App Store right now. Like,
okay,
no amount of like media propaganda can trick people into saying, I want to like engage with this app. The second one is like,
what are you talking about, Eric?
They're like, there are lots of apps that like have no media story whatsoever. Like, people use the apps they want to use. To me, I mean, the actual
Your
engagement
argument
with
is
ChatGPT.
It's not possible that the media could make something popular. I'm not sure.
No, I'm just saying it's not like an immediate invention. Like, people are using them.
They are trying to use it, and I think there are some people who are using it for I'm not saying nobody's using it for a reason. I think the vast amount of the pressure on them is coming from the media and society saying, you have to check this out. The best evidence of that is why does only ChatGPT have this much? Why is it that none of the other services have serious users? Perplexity has like 15, 20 million users. Right. Like, that's piss poor. If there was any kind of groundswell around this, there would be other examples of insanely popular stuff. And there just isn't. I don't deny that ChatGPT is popular.
I mean, Google search is obviously more and more of the results I get on Google search are effectively Gemini's answer.
That's cool if you push people towards like, Google.com.
Search and OpenAI, these are like the main ways people like discover things in the world independent of talking to another human being. And they're both moving towards these large language model solutions.
Right. Let me butt in for a quick second here, because I want to give Ed like the chance to, because there'll be a lot of back and forth, I'm sure, on this, but I want to give Ed the space to no, it'll be great. But I want to give Ed the space to explain why you think this has happened, right? Because you explained, this is your argument of the fact that it's totally inflated. It's, the value of this product well exceeds the valuations, and the revenues just aren't there. It's money losing. But I'm imagining you've written that you have a larger argument as to why the media, venture capitalists, the public markets needed this technology to exist and to inflate it in this way. Like, lay out to me that argument too. Like, why have we gotten to this bubble of all bubbles with generative AI?
So if you look, there's nothing else. There's not really another hypergrowth market. We've all been through the various eras, going back to the smartphone era, the cloud era. There was even the containerization and virtualization era. There were like little eras here at Platform as a Service, had its moment, but we haven't had a big one since like cloud storage in some time. And smartphones, cloud, I kind of mashed them together. They're kind of a messy comparison because it's not like there was one thing, but those were the very big growth markets. We haven't had one of those in a while. They tried with smartwatches, they tried with AR, they tried with VR. They've tried various versions of AR with weird depth of field cameras. They tried with Google Glass, they tried wearables. They've tried Indiegogo and Kickstarter. They tried blockchain. They've tried all of these things because they kind of need something, because the only thing that grows forever is cancer. This is the rock-com bubble, I call it, because they've run out of ideas.
Rock-com, I do like it. You're good at branding these things.
Yeah, that was banger. Yeah. But the thing is, they're sticking with this thing. And really, even if you disagree about how I feel about ChatGPT, you got to admit, this is an obscene amount of money to put into this, especially without the returns. So you've got big tech, really at this point has lost all of its good ideas. All of the builders are gone. The people running them all have MBAs, other than Mark Zuckerberg, who hasn't written a line of code since 2006. So they're all doing cargo cult shit. They're doing what worked before. So a bunch of money, bunch of people, bunch of money, bunch of people. Keep doing it. What do we need? We need more GPUs because Bing needs AI in it. We've terrified Kevin Roos. Kevin Roos is crying his eyes out because of Bing telling him to leave his wife. It's horrible.
We make fun of Kevin Roos too. I just don't think he's willing this into being. But yeah,
I don't think he is on his own. But I will get to that.
But
No.
Yeah.
I wanted to actually admire your work and all of you. I want to talk about this. So it's you've got to this point where everyone's trying to work out something. So they all go, well, this makes sense. It is, I see the logic. I disagree with it, but I see what they were going. Where they went, okay, 3.5 comes out, ChatGPT, really impressive amounts of text it can generate. And in the past, we've seen this kind of, really, they're looking at smartphones and they're looking at CPUs. They're saying, well, number has always gone up. Things have always got better based on how much we sink into it. And I think that they thought something was going to change around reasoning. I think they thought reasoning was going to be that moment that kind of flipped the switch and everything started working better. It was going to help with agents. I think they found themselves in this point where they have no choice other to do this. They have to keep spending this money because if they stop spending it, they have to say to Wall Street, well, we're going to do this instead. What are they going to do instead? They actually don't know. Quantum computing is not a scale product. It's not even a product yet.
It doesn't exist. Really, sure. It's not a technology.
It doesn't. Yeah, it's not really out there.
You can't really productize it, right? And you really can't productize anything at the moment. And I think generative AI and large language models and transformer-based architecture was seen as this dual panacea, however you say that, of consumer software, that it was going to be the new consumer software that they sell. The first time they could really take the evil of SaaS and approach the real world with it. And it was going to be this cloud storage thing where it would be the replacement thing, the new thing for AWS, new thing for Google Cloud, new thing for Azure. And then you'd have pop-ups of NeoCloud like CoreWeave and Nebius, I forget, Crusoe. And everyone thought that there was going to be this big boom, this big exciting moment that never really materialized. But they have no choice. They can't just turn around and be like, yeah, we spent hundreds of billions of dollars and it isn't doing anything. This is bad, right? And then Wall Street's going to be mad at them. So they're in this kind of Kobayashi Maru situation where damned if they do, damned if they don't. They can only keep doing this. It's not a great position for anyone. And I think it's the Magnificent Seven's 35% of the US stock market. Of that, I think 19% is NVIDIA. NVIDIA is 12% of the value of GDP at the moment. Data center investment by basically four companies was worth more growth in the GDP than all of consumer spending combined. We're just in this really insane situation. And I think that if we had something here, if we had something that was going to truly be the future, we'd have it already. We'd have an actual sign that this was going somewhere. And just one company that has obscene numbers that are extremely hard to actually quantify, I don't think actually proves that.
You're talking about NVIDIA.
I'm talking about OpenAI right now. NVIDIA is a real company. They make real things. Jensen Huang is just doing what he has always done this. He has always been this kind of showman. Steve Burke over at Gamers Nexus has covered this many, many, many times. This is just, and what's he to do? Say, hey guys, I don't think generative AI is going to be a big, no, he's going to say the more you buy, the more you save. Honestly, get that money, Jensen. It's just
When you're talking about the level of CapEx that's going into essentially NVIDIA right now, you can see we're in kind of, if you follow your argument, and believe in it, a kind of almost like Mickey Mouse and the Sorcerer's Apprentice situation where the buckets of water just keep coming and coming. And, you wake up one day and NVIDIA is a $4.5 trillion company. And if there really is, no utility to it, like you're arguing, or limited utility, it is a big fucking problem. Given, the valuation of these stocks.
And I must be clear, there is utility. It's just nowhere near as big as people are saying. The 50, 60 billion TAM thing I say is if this was what they were talking, if it did this and they were saying that, I'd be like, okay, sure. I've heard stupider things. It's this would be a reasonable cloud thing, but it's not. And it's not being sold as that. And it's not being promised as that. The way that Sam Altman talks about it is nothing like that. And I understand why he doesn't, because if he said, you can't really rely on it, but sometimes it's good, that's not going to work.
Well, it's hard to raise money based on that.
Yeah,
not to say that's the only reason he does it, but go ahead, Eric.
I just don't think the core disagreement is I just don't think the sales pitch of generative AI is what's misleading everybody. I think what made this whole moment so exciting is that people could play with ChatGPT and see for themselves what the value is. It's if I'm cooking, I ask ChatGPT questions. If I'm lost, I ask ChatGPT questions. When I was preparing for this episode, I asked ChatGPT questions. It just feels like there are all these random use cases that it's super valuable for. And it hasn't even been turned into like a dedicated product, how most people expect to use things, where it's like, here, use it for this. Like, this is just the open-ended, like, do anything with it, figure it out, find some value with it yourself. And all this building is about saying, okay, it can do this. How do we build software that leads people directly to the valuable pieces of what the large language model is producing?
And what are those pieces?
Like, what is valuable? Like, it can write. I mean, for me personally, like, it's great at proofreading. It's great at understanding large documents and summarizing them. Like, I feel like there are lots of things that it can
Eric,
do.
do you still use it to like discuss movies after you've seen it, to like have a back and forth?
Sometimes,
I'm not even being facetious. Could you name a few more? This company's worth $300 billion.
We proofread this. I mean, I know what I use it for because I'm in a particular vertical, right? Like, so for media, it's like, who should we have on the podcast? Let's generate ideas of like who potential guests are. Proofreading, like I gut check my stories with it, like core things of the business that I actually run, it's useful for. And then people in lots of other domains see areas where they think it's useful for them. Like I don't think it's this like limited thing. Literally, the people who know my baby's name are me, my wife, and ChatGPT. Like, it is one of the most involved people on some of the most major decisions, like in our lives. Like, there are lots of people who are using it as their therapist. It's the second opinion for many people on their doctor. Like, I think these are huge things people are using it for.
I don't think that those are huge things at all. I think that those are actually deeply commoditized operations, and indeed, those are not businesses. On top of that, I would be fine with everything you're saying, and indeed, I accept those as use cases. Fine. I think the idea of this for therapy is evil, and anyone that tries to sell a product doing therapy using AI should be in jail. That's just a personal belief. The thing is, you're describing what should have been the next stage of search. A lot of this growth comes from the failure of Google to meaningfully innovate in 15, 20 years. They didn't they stopped trying, and they stopped trying before Prabhakar Raghavan came in, actually. They really did. Like, they just don't give a shit. And realistically, everything you're describing should be what search does, or Google should have done. It's also perfectly fine. Do you think it's worth more than Salesforce?
The sense of like they should have done. Like, technology doesn't happen. Like, people have to invent things and come up with new solutions that deliver the value.
I fully agree. Why is it that I, as the customer, have to come up with the product for the company, though? That doesn't make sense. And on top of that,
why we're in the early days. That, to me, that
we're
is
not in the early days. We are nowhere
case for ChatGPT or for language models. That right now we leave it to the consumer to figure out how to get stuff out of the models.
That is loathsome. We have not actually a loathsome way of selling a product. I'm so sorry.
What do you mean?
If you're selling a product.
You're obsessed with selling it. Consumers decide what they want to use.
Which is why so few of them are paying for large language models products. Like that's the thing. Like,
I mean, I feel like an astounding number of people are paying for subscriptions to OpenAI.
Who?
Yeah, Ed, I'm a little bit, I don't know if I fully follow your argument on this one.
OpenAI, here's the thing. I stand by it that there has been a media and societal pressure to get people to try ChatGPT. They have a why do you think that OpenAI publishes weekly active users versus monthly? Because they don't want anyone to do the conversion rate thing. Also, how does OpenAI consider someone a customer? When I was trying GPT-5 last week, I wanted to see what it looked like on Teams. I clicked the Teams button to upgrade, and it offered me $1 for a month. How often are they offering that deal? Who are they considering a customer at 20 million customers? Who are they considering a business customer at 5 million customers? Because these numbers sound cool, but at the same time, they're playing silly buggers all over. I don't have a problem necessarily with the general large language model product, but when you look outside of OpenAI, the money isn't there. When you look outside of OpenAI, the traffic isn't there. How is ChatGPT meaningfully different?
Can I zoom out for a second?
Sure.
I mean, my experience with this whole thing, like, I want to say, first of all, obviously tech goes through booms and busts. Like, that's endemic to how the technology industry works. There's no question at some point NVIDIA will be overvalued. So I think where we're arguing is not whether there are booms and busts here, but whether there's a real value. This is a major platform shift akin to mobile. I think it's bigger than cloud, so how big of is this a platform shift? Okay. Just to set that piece of it. The other thing, my experience with dealing with the sort of like very negative sort of tech commentary at class was obviously covering Uber, right? I provided a lot of the scoops that were like, oh my God, Uber is losing a ton of money. And I feel like for that. And I was at Bloomberg. So thankfully, while I was sort of learning about the tech industry, I was able to play this factual role. It's like they are losing a lot of money. They're investing a ton to grow. I'd watch some people take all those numbers that I reported and way over extrapolate from what I'd reported, all these models about the business that you'd never be able to tell based on these limited financials. And then at the end of the day, and you have been someone who says, Uber loses money. It's always going to lose money. And now Uber is making money. Like Uber's business has rationalized.
It has.
It is cash flow positive,
no, Eric,
but it's like,
it is cash flow positive.
I did read your Uber's thing, and your journalism was excellent then. Like, it's actually, I think, how we first started talking. Like, it's still, like, in not saying it's not now, by the way. You have written actually some very good critical AI pieces. I 100% believe that you're coming at this well. I don't think Uber is a comparison point just because this would be like if every Uber ride cost 40 grand. And it ran on gold. Like the economics are very different. And on top of that, Uber's a kind of a useful. They actually really did the too big to fail. And they also did it within the ZERP era. I don't know if Uber had released, it would be a weird world if they had, but if they released in like 2021, I don't know.
You've been very negative about Uber, right? Like, I mean,
I have. Have I said that Uber
would
die?
Were you wrong? Or
did I say that Uber would die?
I think you said something like it will be like lose money forever or something.
I stand by that. I think they kind of are going to lose money forever. I think they're going to dodge by on the thinnest possible. You've written about this yourself. The weird little EBITDA dance they do. They're also
they're past that, Ed. Now, I mean, they are a cash flow positive.
Yeah,
business.
they are.
Investors are valuing
Good
them
for
based
them.
on like.
Yeah.
I
don't even think Uber's that great of a company, to be clear. Like, I think
we're
Uber's
talking
a
apples
company
and
that.
oranges, though.
Yeah, no, I
Does
agree with
Uber
you.
require you to buy hundreds
Sure.
of billions of cars to make it work? Does Uber burn that much? Like, Uber burns money because it's a massive marketing machine. Like, it's like Groupon on wheels. It's fucking ridiculous, but it exists and it has a product you can point to. I'm still trying to work out what the comparison point is other than burning money.
The point is that their investors have reasons to believe that burning money in the early days will result in profits down the road. I agree that there's like an interesting question, like where we agree with the criticism of models, and we've talked about a lot on this podcast, is it's not clear whether all this spending will be a moat, right? That you'll create all this value, and then you've worked really hard, and then the next person like DeepSeek can just come along and like copy you. But to me, that's not like a case against the actual value of the thing they're producing. It's just a business structure problem of like, will they have the moat of a technological advantage, or will they just lose it? And like, if investors want to roll the dice on a particular business and say, we think they'll be able to keep it, it's almost like good for society if they're wrong. They invest money to build a technology that is valuable to us. And if it becomes cheaper because other people can just make it easily, like what's the tragedy?
The tragedy here is that massive environmental damage, the millions of people having stuff stolen from them, the diversion of startup capital away from any idea that does not have AI, the idea that all AI talent is being driven upwards due to Mark Zuckerberg's obsession with this, the fact that people like Alexander Wang, who make genuinely evil companies, are winning due to this, and on top of this, that now our economy sits on the back of data center capex, which even if this does well, will have to contract because we have a limited amount of space on planet Earth. Like, that's the thing. The actual evil here, the people being driven insane by ChatGPT, the people who are losing their minds because we've made a yes and machine. The fact that these things have no guardrails on them, okay, that's not true. They have some guardrails on them, but they don't have guardrails enough, and they've been allowed to do basically anything they want. Yeah, there are tons of really bad things. If this was just like a company that they bet a lot of money on, fine, sure, like, I fully agree. Like, it's good for them to take, like, that's what venture capital does. However, I think we're in a cargo cult situation where they're trying to play the hits. Every VC is just playing Enter Sandman again and again and again. Invest as much.
I just find I get that Casey Newton got in this fight where he sort of said, you either have to be like, AI is gonna be big, but it's bad, or you need to say AI is not gonna be big, so who cares? And I find the quadrant that you occupy where it is not going to be big and it's terrible, like sort of exhausting. Like I don't understand.
I didn't say terrible.
Okay.
Oh, really? Well,
no, I've said large language models have specific markets, 50 to 60 TAM. I think that the future of coding LLMs will be
terrible. They're going to ruin the environment. They're going to
social
wrong.
environmental
Therapy
causes.
people should be jailed.
Am I wrong?
Like,
Am I wrong?
Well, you just said
Am I wrong about any of these things?
Terrible
if
to
every
me.
Uber driver had a gun and they unloaded it into people as they drove by, would that be a good feature if Uber allowed it to exist and if regulation didn't stop it? I'm actually not joking. Are you saying that if there are negative effects, there cannot be positive effects? Because that's the thing. I'm not saying large language models have zero use cases. That's a mistake I've made a few years ago. I really did. There are specific niche. It's cloud software. It's cloud compute. Like, there are things it can do. There are some interesting things people can do with code. Can it write and type? No, you can't rely on it. The future of that will be in what is the DGX boxes that NVIDIA's, they're making like the home, like not home, but like researcher grade, extremely expensive computers. There is something there.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, man, I don't know what quadrant, and also Casey Newton needs to go and read that Kilo Code blog about how inference costs are going up, because he said the opposite would happen.
Who?
Anywho,
Sorry.
Casey Newton said that the cost of inference, there's a blog from Kilo Code that shows how the cost of inference is going up, because while the prices might be reducing, the amount of inference that coding models are using is actually massively increasing.
because of learning, because of reasoning models, and that's suddenly kind of turned inferencing into kind of a more training-like experience.
They're trying to do more stuff.
Yes,
but like the old models doing the same thing certainly costs less.
Except no one wants to use the old models. No one wants to do that.
Because we're advancing so much that people are excited about the new models.
Well, let's actually talk about that for a second.
This is like a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Like every time,
why is it that I have to justify?
Negative.
No, and I mean this not as an attack on you,
because you're opining on AI. Like
but I don't feel like this level of rigor, and I'm not talking about you here. I don't feel like this level of rigor and criticism and analysis is ever put on the positive side to make them prove themselves. Indeed, I don't. You can say damned if I'm. They've never had to sing for their supper. They've never had to really sit there and explain what their product does. You yourself even said it's for users to work out. Why? Like, they're worth $300 billion. That's more than the market cap of Salesforce. $500 billion, more than the market cap or around the market cap of Netflix. Yeah, they do actually kind of have to justify themselves. If they are worth that much, then yeah, I actually would like an explanation.
Well, but you're talking about different justifications here, Ed, because there's justification to investors and then justification to clients, to customers about whether this software has any utility. And I think you are seeing a huge amount of resistance from larger enterprises, at least, over whether they really want to adopt this stuff. Like, Steve Lohr had a pretty interesting piece that came out I think today that basically said, I mean, and this was not really a case fully against AI, but basically said we're in like the trough of disillusionment right now when it comes to the number of products that are being, abandoned by enterprises right now, initiatives that they end up abandoning. It's like 42% or something. So I actually don't really think these guys are not out there, not being called to by the CIOs of all these prospective customers to say, like, what is the value this has here?
Even Tyler Cowen had a piece about this that was ultimately optimistic on AI, but that the utility point of where these corporate customers and buyers hadn't, fully adopted it yet was simply just because it was too early. It's not like this transformation shift takes a long time.
I mean, definitely
it's only been 3 years.
AI, it's been very fast.
I mean, dude, like cloud. There are banks that still don't embrace the cloud. Like, there are plenty of
2017 was attention all you need. It's actually been much longer, and on top of that, you've never had this focused capital.
Late 2022, and people are just catching on to it in 2023.
You've never had this focused capital in investment history. You have never had all the king's horses and all the king's men do this. You have most of the talent and most of the money diverted to focus on one thing. You've got startups, you've got giant companies, you've got everyone looking at this, and this is what we've got.
What is diverted? I think this is actually a key point of your argument that I want to understand.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want the money to go to instead? I guess like the way capitalism works is like, this is the most exciting idea people have going. Like, if they had another great idea, they could return a bunch of money. They are happy to hear you out. Like, what is the better?
Are they?
What is the thing? What is the thing you want them to spend the money on? I mean, they listen to this podcast.
Anything else? I mean, genuinely, how about a product that makes more money than it costs? How about, I don't know, something that helps niche industries? That's the thing. I'm not.
And what's your take about like the biology AI movement? Like AI for drug discovery, which I guess in some ways,
I think that's cool. I think there are tons of AI things that are not
built in this space.
Yeah, I think that those are not all large language model products. And indeed, if large language models make money in that and do that, that's sick. That would be cool. I'm not saying that I can't find a thing I like. I'm just yet to be remotely impressed by this. And again, it comes from the fact that I really encourage you to go and look at the early coverage of this, and then follow the coverage year by year and see how vague this has been and how ridiculous the pressure has been on people. Look outside of the tech media into like the business media, into industrial media, educational media, put the pressure on teachers from 2022. It is absolutely ridiculous. The amount of pressure put on society, the amount of pressure from bosses telling people, you've got to do AI. It's the same crap they were doing with return to office. It is the same thing.
And you hold the media responsible for that, for a lot of that pressure.
Partially. I think that there is also a societal failure in general. I think that the markets are not connected to real outcomes, and I think that that rewards a certain kind of burn. I also think that there is a level here of it's not malicious necessarily. It's like venture capital did what venture capital would do. Big tech did what big tech do. OpenAI did what any startup would do. I don't think they set out being like, we are going to do a big fake thing and we will get everyone to, but I don't think that's it at all. I think that this is very much something that ran out. It kind of got out of control versus a malignant thing where Sam Altman was sitting being like, finally. No, I think it's just a runaway train.
Yeah, no, and I think an argument in that favor is the fact that ChatGPT as a product was kind of a mistaken success.
Yeah.
They put it out on a lark, pissing off everyone at Microsoft because they just wanted to see. Yeah,
Isn't that like an argument for this not being some marketing coup? It was like,
but Ed is saying is that it is.
Know what they had, and people were excited about it.
No, but I think what he's saying is it got out of control because it grew at this pace that is ultimately unsustainable or based largely on hype, and so the product's utility doesn't really meet its hype. Even though,
there were other companies that did what ChatGPT did before them. There was I think Jasper beat them to market, but they didn't have Sam Altman's cachet, and I mean. That really is just startups. That I'm not going to be pissy about that.
But product market fit can happen in lots of different ways. I mean,
sure.
And
that happens all the time. It's just it was a marketing thing, and it was something that people got legitimately excited about at first. I'm not saying any of that was illegitimate. I actually think that the original thing that it did was kind of interesting. It's like, good. I remember at the time, it didn't really get a ton more interesting. And indeed, the things it can do did not dramatically change. And I even think that the launch of GPT-5, when you look at the craziness around 4.0, it reminds me, and someone on Blue Sky made this point, it's like a live service game. People freaked out like gamers do, being like, you took away the thing. And now you've got people on Reddit saying 4.0 isn't the same, which is just, it's full, but it suggests that there is not a product people are attached to, but a feeling. The thing it makes them feel, it's almost like a
Isn't
a game.
That like, okay. Again, to me, this fits in the sort of, it's either very successful at being bad or bad at being successful, and you can sort of switch back and forth.
I'm not saying it's not popular. I'm just saying that its popularity is kind of a mirage. First of all, the numbers that OpenAI are giving us are questionable, and I've repeatedly asked them to give clarity over what a weekly user is, whether they have monthly active users. They have revealed their annual recurring revenue once to CNBC on June 3rd, I believe, and then leaked twice within 48 hours to two different outlets when they hit 12 and 13. That alone suggests that the way they calculate annualized revenue is weird. The thing is, I do think that media pressure and I do think societal pressure can lead to this thing. And the fact that there are no other companies that really show any kind of similar revenue scale, even big tech, really isn't. So this can be popular, this can be used by a lot of people, but there are no after effects that suggest that the large language model is popular. The thing, the headless beast, ChatGPT, is popular. But why is it popular? What do people, they use it as search, they use it to brainstorm, fine, whatever. I think that the therapy thing is very worrying, as is the friendship thing, but nevertheless, it's a thing that people use it for. But when it comes down to the actual utility, when it comes down to the thing that makes this worth this much money, that's where the wheels come off for me. Even the coding stuff.
Right, that's what I
thought that might be a huge revenue thing, but 400 million ARR from Claude Code, according to the information, that's stinky. That's stinky.
I mean, that's over 4 months, though. I mean, they just launched that product in February.
And they're now rate limiting heavily.
These are some of the fastest growing products by revenue, ever.
And then they will crash because Cursor. Oh, you want to talk Cursor? I'd love to talk Cursor.
I'd love to talk Cursor.
We can talk Cursor.
Cursor, Pete?
I'd love to talk Cursor. Anyway, I think Cursor is the Bear Stearns of this entire situation. They released. Do you know anything that happened with Cursor's price changes?
Yeah, I wrote a whole piece about it on Sunday.
Wonderful. I should have read that shit. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's fine.
Anyway, have you noticed
we'll follow up with you afterwards.
Are you familiar with the auto feature on Cursor?
Yes, sure.
You know
the
how
auto
it's
selectors.
unlimited?
Yes,
it's not unlimited. It's starting in September. They're taking that. Cursor has had to change their entire product. They've had to change everything. And now even the unlimited part isn't unlimited. That 500 million annualized figure was from May, I want to say.
It's from June. They're above that now.
Are they?
Yeah.
How long are they going to be above that? What's the churn? Because the thing is, that product has dramatically changed. It's no longer the same thing. I read their forums and their Reddit all the time. Mm-hmm. They are, in September, dramatically changing it again. They're basically making it so you will be hard stopped on Cursor like you are with Claude Code.
Yeah, well, their gross margins are negative. I mean, it was a nightmare for them. Like they had these sinkhole customers that were using all these agentic tools that were burning all these. They basically were propping up Anthropic's business. More than 10% at times of Anthropic's revenue comes from Cursor.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Ooh,
all in newcomer.co. Sure.
You just gave him another negative point. He's like, "Oh, add that to my quiver of negative things about this whole situation."
I will, Eric.
The important thing here is that my work gets more widely distributed. That's my contribution.
We have to shout out Tom's story. That's the most important piece.
We have questions about Cursor too. We report it. I mean, I'm fairly bullish about the what's happening with language models overall, but obviously we believe in asking questions and quibbling with things. So we're supportive with you on that. I still think the bulls, I wish 20% of what they said was negative, and you sort of the bear, I wish, there was 20% that you would offer that's positive. And I'm not clear what you're arguing for sometimes.
I mean, I'm arguing for us to stop pretending that it's something it isn't. I'm arguing for people to stop saying that the agents work. I'm arguing for people to stop pretending that OpenAI is a sustainable company. Same deal with Anthropic. For people to admit the economics are rotten, and also start talking about the fact that the money isn't being
not just, but like, I mean, you were negative on like Facebook in I think like 2022, which was like the low point for the stock. The stock is like 7x from there, and like the Mag
public
7,
stocks are different to products.
They're producing profits. They are generating most of the returns.
Like a big asshole. I'm so sorry, Eric.
Are we talking about product
or are we talking about companies?
Do you believe in capitalism?
Yes. Oh my God, it exists.
I don't just a sincere question, not to like.
I believe that the current state of capitalism with rot economics, the growth at all costs ecosystem, is going to drive the tech industry into the goddamn toilet. I think it is going to end up hurting far more people. And it goes all the way back to 2011 with the case of the fat startup. Software is eating the world was not a good thing for startups. All it did was attempt to remove the connection from the value of the stock. That was the purpose of software is eating the world. That is my problem. The Bay Area that was about creating valuable software that you sell to people and then you sell to a big company for a profit or you take public is dead. It is absolutely dead. As long as we honor these
in the AI world right now is the cool calling card is to do something with as few employees as possible. Like there was this period of bloat, but I do think a lot people are trying to like skip funding rounds. People are trying to hire fewer people. Like I do think some of the values of the current AI boom are in sort of lean companies, obviously.
And do you think that the economics will always be there for that? Because I hope so. I hope that someone finds a thing to do with large language models that's actually profitable while not destroying the environment. There are interesting things. Simon Willison, Max Wolf, they post cool things all the time. I can't do them, can't code, but like, I recognize that there are people doing stuff with it. But there's this massive other story. I don't ever want to read about fucking agents the rest of my days until they can.
Agents are obviously extremely early.
Yeah,
but Silicon Valley like thinks through these things while they're.
Look at the coverage of OpenAI.
I mean, is deep research an agent? Like,
it's research
deep
grows,
research,
man.
No,
it's
I
not
think for
good.
Like a consulting memo. I'm sure you're like, well, consultants are idiots, but like, if you want to deliver like a consulting memo level product, you could get it out of deep research.
Can you? Is that something? Like, here's the thing. I've read a few articles about McKinsey being scared of AI. There's never really any numbers or tangible there's always like, well, this is obviously happening. But when you go and look for tangible examples, in fact, throughout this whole boom, they're just not there. And that's the thing. If this was being fairly evaluated, great. It isn't. And I'm roasted like a prize hog for daring to step outside here, for daring to say this. But they did not receive this level of scrutiny on the way up. They have not really received this level of scrutiny. And if I'm right, there was a bloody reason to. And that this is kind of a giant mirage. And it's scary because, putting aside my personal feelings, the economic effects here and to the effects for startups. Because the thing I said earlier, and I said this in the AI is a money trap. Putting aside feelings about the industry, we currently have a crisis with valuations. Who is going to buy Cognition? Who is going to buy Cohere? Who is going to buy Cursor? Is Cursor going to sell for $20 billion? Okay, fine. Will they actually sell for the IP, though? Who is going to buy these things? Why did Cognition buy the remains of Windsurf? Was it to add their 82 million ARR? Because Cognition does not have revenue. What are these companies doing? What happens next? How do they exit? Because remember, in 2021, a bunch of crap money got tied up in crapper companies, and LPs got pissy. LPs came flooding back in with AI. How do you think they're going to feel when there's no exit? Because there really isn't right now. Inflection wasn't a real one. Character.ai wasn't a real one.
Shareholders, the investors are getting cash back because of those
Which
deals.
investors?
So they are
some aren't.
The investors in companies like Inflection, Character, they're getting money back as part of those deals.
But they are not getting the massive returns that would justify the like. That's the thing. It's
some of them are like 2x on pretty big amounts of money. I mean, it depends on the deal.
2x is that really like from the again? If this was just a regular thing, if this is a regular thing where I was not having conversations with people that get animated about it, if it was just a regular thing, hell yeah, 2x, 3x, cool. But the weird thing is everyone's talking about this as the next big thing. When you look at the actual things, why didn't these companies get acquired properly? Why did they do these acqui-hire thingies?
Well, that's
regulatory. There's a regulatory whole angle. I will say there is a whole regulatory.
Oh no, there's a regulatory
angle,
but
happen.
What regulate? Like, you think they're actually Microsoft's Inflection deal got put through regulators anyway? Like, and it passed.
No, I mean it did.
No,
yeah,
it's used to avoid regulation.
It did after the fact, but the deal sailed through. I mean, it was just basically a licensing deal. I mean, that's the reason these things caught fire. Is
like,
because
it's done. We did the deal.
These things are legal tricks to get around regulation.
Okay.
Yeah, these aren't the exits people want.
But I'm saying people are making money off them. And OpenAI is selling like secondary shares for employees at like 500, like an insane number.
Yeah.
Like
suicide round.
It's like hard to even say. I'm like, oh my God, it isn't like
worth as much as
no,
Netflix.
but like I think to make Ed's argument here, I think what's going on here with these like kind of mild outcomes for these second tier startups is that they're all kind of predicated on the belief that there is going to be one, maybe two actual huge outcomes, and it's probably OpenAI and it's Anthropic. And if those if they don't turn out to be anything, then the whole thing does probably collapse.
I mean, that was a big thing in my benchmark piece, right? That I just published. It was like, oh, they're making a bunch of infrastructure investments, but they don't have a big foundation model, and it's very possible there's a classic home run distribution. But to me, that argument is paired with OpenAI is going to win everything and is super valuable.
Actually, this is a really good question though. What happens if OpenAI doesn't convert to a non-profit and doesn't receive the money from SoftBank?
Well, I agree. We are aligned on that. I wrote a bear case about OpenAI predicated on that. So I agree with you on that.
Banger. And the thing is, I don't actually think we disagree on a ton of I think you have a lot of hopes for this, but it seems like the actual economics, you kind of see where I'm coming from. And I think that it's good that someone like you has the bull argument, but still acknowledges these things, because whoever's right, at least these arguments need to be given air.
Right.
I will say someone needs to read SoftBank's earnings like I have, though. Because SoftBank does not remember when SoftBank said they were going to spend $3 billion on OpenAI back in February. SoftBank does not know how that's working. Crystal Intelligence is yet to pop. The whole there are straight up bullshit things happening,
right?
And
we're very interested in SoftBank round as well. We agree with some of your skepticism.
But I have a thing though with this, which is putting aside how you think it may or not go. What happens if OpenAI doesn't raise that money? They're dead. They are dead because they can't go public, and they had to.
You mean if they don't
$10
convert?
billion.
You mean if they don't convert to a PBC?
Yeah, if they don't convert, it's game over. And I think OpenAI is a systemic risk, because OpenAI dies, CoreWeave dies, Crusoe has built nothing for nothing, Oracle has sunk all this money in, JP Morgan, Blue Owl, primary data infrastructure has sunk all this money into data centers for nobody. They'll maybe resell them. I have some people at Oracle telling me that they could find customers theoretically, but all of this money is laid out for one company. And if they don't convert, and also SoftBank needs to get $22.5 billion. They don't have that money. Yes, they had a great quarter, whatever, but they don't have the cash. And they have a basic loan LTV thing where it's like they can't go over 25%. They don't have even the space to do that. They're saying it will come out of Vision Fund. It's
people may lose money, but there is some minimum price for like OpenAI. Like people see the value, they're producing revenue. So I just disagree that there's like some existential risk here. It's like, yes,
if
there are
OpenAI
lots
dies,
of
yes, there is.
they're not going to die because like even if it falls to 30 billion, because you only get this tiny sliver of it and the nonprofit owns tons of it, there's still more money that would come in at some price to keep the thing
Forever?
going. I mean, I think as long as it is the leader in large language models and people are seeing tremendous value in language models, then yeah, which I think will be the case.
Tremendous value
Yes,
in them?
I think so. That's the core area we disagree. It is the number one app in the App Store. It is the main general purpose assistant to find information.
But that was once. But that was once.
This one time.
It's a sustained number one. This isn't like a
Okay.
podcaster getting high up once and using the number over and over again. This is a sustained in the App Store. I mean, worst case, like,
I will say, Eric, like there are warning. As someone who covered Snapchat for many years, like you can be number one in the App Store and not really make that great of a business overall.
Sure.
So these things are
Especially
somewhat
when every
ephemeral.
free customer loses you money, especially when you're burning money the moment anyone touches your software. Like that's the thing. Gravity exists. So sure, you could. Well, actually, here's the thing. I get what your point is that if they are the leader, they are perceived as leader, they could keep raising money. But why do people invest money in companies? It's so there can be an exit. The idea here is without the non-profit conversion, OpenAI has no liquidity route other than what amounts to a Ponzi scheme. It just, you are selling investor money to other investors at increasing amounts, I imagine. Maybe they can raise debt on this.
There are now all these secondary transactions. So it's like private companies are
Well, that's the Ponzi scheme
companies.
Aspect of it.
And also, how do you keep that going if they can't go public?
But you know, Stripe, all these companies are selling. There are exits involved. Like new people are buying out old people.
So you're just saying that, let's just say the scheme requires money to keep entering the system so that by exiting money that's already entered the system, and that if the money entering the system stops, then the scheme in this case will die. This
is like if nobody buys, Microsoft tomorrow, it'll fall to zero. Like this is just how stocks work. As long as
Microsoft makes more money than they lose. OpenAI burns billions of dollars.
If there are transactions on the secondary markets where big private companies are able to sell large chunks of stock to someone else, that's a price setting mechanism.
Eric, are you suggesting that OpenAI would continue selling stock if it couldn't go public? Is your suggestion, just so I understand, the OpenAI, they don't convert, so they are perpetually a non-profit. You are suggesting that they would survive by just continually selling stock?
No, they need some structure that's sustainable where they can say, this is how it's going to work. This is where the profits go. This entity owns this percentage of profits. I'm investing in this. Like, I think there needs to be some resolution to that question, though I think people will have a lot of energy to invest without that certainty.
On the conversion aspect to it, Ed, the reason I have a hard time getting too worked up about that is that we're not talking about some sort of technical breakthrough. We're not talking about AGI or, them achieving some level of, breakthrough in the language model. This is a political bureaucratic transaction, right?
Do you know how difficult it is to convert from a non-profit
I've written
to
lots
a
of stories
for-profit?
about this. I've written lots of stories about this. I mean, essentially, their entire fate rests in the hands of the AG in Delaware and California. And to a smaller
Microsoft
degree,
and the IRS.
Well, the IRS is downstream of all of this. I mean, this is mostly an AG decision, and also Microsoft because it's about their larger contract over their relationship with OpenAI.
Right.
I think Microsoft has a vested interest in ensuring that OpenAI doesn't collapse because their stock price is based on because their stock price is based.
They own all the IP. They own all the infrastructure.
But they also get cloud revenue from usage of ChatGPT. I mean, if OpenAI disappeared tomorrow, their story of being an AI stock would evaporate overnight. They can't sell Copilot. The Mustafa's team hasn't built shit, so they absolutely need OpenAI to exist. But what at least for the next couple of years. But look, I don't even know. I can't pretend I know how that one's going to play out on the California AG front. I think there's going to be a huge fight with the nonprofits within the state, and who even knows, who becomes the next governor of California, if that's Katie Porter, if it's, I don't even know who else, not Kamala Harris. I think one of the major things that will come up is how hard are you going to be on OpenAI? I think California's, as a anti-business state, is something very problematic to people here. And the idea that you would have fucked over the most promising company by not allowing it to convert into a for-profit would be a huge problem. That wouldn't actually win you that many votes.
Lesson that you just get big enough and the regulators solve the problem for you. And I
can't get that worked up on.
Even though I'm somewhat cynical about it, same thing will happen for OpenAI. I want to make.
I
can
disagree
make
with you, but I can see how you got there.
I want to make a sort of different point on the sort of overvaluation of AI startups that again parallels this like Uber trauma experience. It's just like SoftBank overpaid for Uber, which effectively meant a bunch of Middle Eastern money and Saudi money overpaid for Uber. The valuation corrected and eventually went back up. Like a lot of the money that's flowing in now is these big like Middle Eastern sovereign wealth. And like some of my big question to you, like what is the more productive thing that this money could go to? Like fundamentally what's happening is countries have made a lot of money on oil. They don't have any better ideas about what to do with the money. So they throw it at AI, and
that's
maybe
a hard line against
AI,
the line.
Like what?
I said there's a lot of very interesting cities that you could be building in Abu Dhabi and Riyadh right now.
Right.
That I think you're overlooking.
The other thing they have is like
yeah.
mega city infrastructure projects, but they're basically saying, okay, the most productive thing going is an AI. And so worst case scenario, like America is getting a bunch of mispriced money, oil money, into our technology companies, and maybe it's slightly overpriced, but I just don't think the money is being burned. Like it's largely American money is being marked up by oil money. And like, what's the tragedy from the American perspective?
First of all, I think it's not an argument to say what else this should be spent on, considering I already established that they're out of ideas. I do not know if there is another hypergrowth market. I believe venture capital needs to actually look downstream and invest more money in seed and startups in general. Most of the money goes B and up, if not C and up. It has historically done that. It's fucking stupid and antithetical to what Silicon Valley stands for. On top of that, I don't agree that most of this money is oil money. In fact, a remarkable amount of this money is coming through sources like Magnetar Capital or Nvidia or Microsoft or Amazon.
Right.
Like,
well, there's a lot of
real
money
from America
flowing back.
Andreessen
but that comes
Horowitz.
back to them.
Right.
Like, that's right.
Okay. So you're just saying, so what is the thing you're saying, that it's good, this money's?
No, I'm just saying,
I'm
like
not,
the
I'm saying,
overvaluation, even if these companies were all overvalued by 50%, I don't think it's like a catastrophe. Like either
I
it's
think it is
people with huge sums of money that don't know where else they want to invest it. It's companies that benefit from the money coming back to them. Like you're saying, like I agree with what you're saying. I don't think that's there's a catastrophe if valuations fall.
So I know we're approaching time, so I think I can actually answer this fairly rigorously. So the catastrophe is the following. In 2021, there was way too much money put in crap. LPs got scared. Startup money really slowed.
Right.
It came back. It came back thanks to AI.
Right.
The problem is that I actually think the money invested here is stupider and the promises are more egregious. But
Right.
hear me out.
No. Yeah, you
Putting
get the
us-
last word. This is a good ending. Yeah.
Your feelings about what will or won't happen. I don't think these companies are worth enough. I don't think they have the exit liquidity. I don't think they're sustainable. As a result, a lot of venture capital is going to get burned, which means a lot of LPs are going to get burned, which is going to largely stymie the amount of money going into the startup ecosystem. On top of that, if Nvidia has any problems with growth from here to oblivion, because they have to, it needs to be like, what, 50 billion next quarter in data center revenue, even though data center revenue missed estimates last quarter. It needs to keep going. What, in 3 years, we meant to be selling $120 billion of GPUs? Because that's what the market expects. All of these expectations have become load-bearing. They become load-bearing for Silicon Valley, and they become load-bearing for the markets. The problem is there is no way to match these expectations. So at some point, there is going to be a nasty hangover. And my fear is it's going to hit regular people in the markets, a ton of retail money in Nvidia too. And on top of that, it's going to stop startups getting money in general. And I think, you know what? I think we need more money in angels anyway. I've always felt that way. It's like, I think that it's better to invest in earlier companies than otherwise. But I'm worried now that we're going to have a repeat of 2022, 2023. Mass layoffs, fuck all money for startups, a lot of cynicism. And I don't mean cynicism like me. I mean just straight up, I don't want to put money in tech. And when tech doesn't have a hypergrowth thing after AI, I'm terrified that it's going to just start slashing tech valuations across the board. However you feel about generative AI, my arguments are founded on like real things. And I mentioned Cognition, for example, their valuation. It's like, how's that end? How does any of this end? Does OpenAI really go public? Does Anthropic go public? Do you think that their S1 is going to look like anything other than a Jackson Pollock painting? Like it's rough out there. And I don't know how people are so bearish right now. I don't know how, I get why people aren't like completely insane and swagged up like me, but I don't get why more people aren't worried. about it because this doesn't even match previous things. And I have real concerns. And the people who are going to get hurt are founders and real people and who have invested in the market. It's good. Their downstream effects are rough.
The Silicon Valley consensus is that angel and seed rounds are overvalued. Now, maybe you disagree, but it's just funny to me to hear it from you that there's not enough investment in those early rounds.
I think it's far more reasonable to overvalue at the seed other than fucking thinking machines and super safe intelligence.
Right.
I think those are ludicrous. But I think it's okay to take bets at the seed and the Series A stage. That's fine. Like, come on. Like, yeah, you take the piss a bit there because you have hopes. When you get to these overblown valuations, OpenAI stage, Anthropic stage, they should be sustainable. And I think that's a reasonable thing to ask for.
All right. Well, look, I mean, the beautiful thing about where we're at right now is that we don't know who's right. We have no idea what's going to happen.
The future remains to be written.
Yeah. And if it is written, it could be written by AI. And we know that it's very sycophantic. It will make us feel very smart about what we asked it. But Ed, thank you so much for joining. I have a feeling we should do this more often.
I would love to. This has been, like, I know this has been quite, like, I've really had a good time. I pay for Newcomer.
A little bit.
I actually pay for Newcomer, like I have for quite some time.
Thank you. We enjoy your Substack. So, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Ed.